Hello class, this is Dr. Flood, and today we're going to discuss how you take the data that you inputted into SPSS and answer your research questions by doing various kinds of statistical analyses. So we'll start. First, I'm going to pull up the data that I've inputted into SPSS. Now, as you'll see, there are 10 people in my study, whereas in the previous video I showed you only 5. I added 5 more people to my study in order to make the computations look better, look cleaner. So that's why there's more in this particular data than what we did in the last video. So with that being said, let's start. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate some descriptive statistics. So first thing, we're going to go to analyze. Then we're going to go to descriptive statistics. Then we're going to go to frequencies. We're going to press on frequencies, and a dialog box is going to appear. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over the two variables that I studied. So for me, those two variables were depression and anxiety. For you, those are going to be two different variables, or maybe depression and anxiety, depending on what you chose. So I'm going to press on depression to highlight it. Then I'm going to press Control and press on anxiety to highlight that one as well. Then I'm going to press this little arrow right here, it's pointing to the right, so that I can move both of the variables into the variable box view. And then I'm going to make sure that display frequency tables are checked. I'm also going to check off create APA style tables. So check that off as well. Then I'm going to go to statistics. I'm going to press on that. And I'm going to check all of the boxes under central tendency, distribution, and dispersion. So that's the mean, median, mode, sum. Under distribution, that's skewness and kurtosis. Under dispersion, that's the standard deviation, the variance, the range, the minimum, the maximum, and the standard error of the mean. Then I'm going to press continue. And then I'm going to press OK. And what's going to happen is another box is going to open with the SPSS output. So that is the first of your output. But I need some more descriptive statistics. So I'm going to go back in. All right, now I can go back in under output, or if I wanted to, I can do the same thing from the data view. Either way is fine. I'm just going to go back to the output. And now I'm going to go press analyze. I'm going to go to descriptive statistics. I'm going to go to frequencies. All right. And I'm going to move the test scores back to the variable list. So now it's moved back. So now this box is empty. All right. And then I'm going to move everything except the random identification number and the 2 test scores that I moved over. I'm going to move everything other than those 3 into the variable box view. So I'm going to move age and years, and I'm going to hold down Control to press on the other ones: gender identity, race and ethnicity, educational level, college year, income level, current semester, exercise, meditation, dietary, religious, political affiliation, and sexual orientation. I'm going to move all those over to the variable box view. And so what I should see is that there should be only 3 in this left box. There should be only the random identification number, the depression, and anxiety test scores. All right, so once I have all those in there, All right. I am going to make sure that display frequency tables is checked off, which it is, and make sure that create APA style tables is also checked off. It is. Then I'm going to go over to statistics, and I'm going to make sure essential tendency, all these are checked off. I'm going to make sure distribution, these two are checked off, and dispersion, make sure these 6 are checked off. And then I'm going to press continue, and then I'm going to press OK. All right. And so now I have new information. All right, new descriptive statistics. All right. But I am not done yet. I need some more information. All right. And so in order to answer my first research question, I need to calculate a Pearson's correlation. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to Analyze. I'm going to press Correlate. Then I'm going to press Bivariate and press that. All right, and then the dialog box is going to appear. Then I'm going to move depression and anxiety to the variables box. So let's move depression, and pressing on control on the move anxiety over to the variable box. All right, and I'm going to make sure that Pearson is checked off. That's what I want to, that is the statistical analysis I want to conduct, because these are both 2 interval level variables. And I'm assuming there is some kind of a linear relationship between the 2 variables. All right, and then I'm going to make sure that for the test of significance that the two-tailed test is checked. It is. And I'm also going to make sure that flag significant correlations is also checked, and it is. And then I'm going to press OK. All right. And so what pops up here is a 2x2 correlation matrix, which all of y'all should have went over with me when you took my course in statistics a couple of semesters ago. All right. So now what we need to do, we have our correlation matrix. We need to produce a scatter plot as well. So to produce a scatter plot, we're going to go to Graphs. They're going to scroll down to Legacy Dialogues. And then we're going to scroll down to a scatter dot. We're going to press that. A new dialog box appears called scatter/dot. And we are going to press on Simple Scatter to make sure that it's bold. And then we're going to press on Define. All right. And then we're going to move the first variable in our first research question, which for me was depression, into the x-axis. And we're going to move the second variable in our first research question, which for me is anxiety, but for you is going to be something different, into the y-axis. Then we're going to press OK. And what's going to appear now, if we scroll down, is our scatter plot. All right, but we're not done yet. We still need to provide a regression line for our data in order to make sense of the scatter plot. So let's do that. So to make a regression line, what we're going to do is we're going to double click the graph, and this dialog box will appear called the chart editor. We're going to press on elements, and then we're going to press on fit line at total, and a new dialog box appears called properties. We're going to check make sure linear is checked off, and it is. And then we are going to press close. And then we're going to exit this dialog box. And so now we have a regression line going through our data. All right, so now we're finished with the output that we need to answer our first research question. We're going to move on to answering our second research question, which was an independent samples t-test. All right, in order to answer that, we're going to run an independent samples t-test. So we're going to go to Analyze. We are going to go to Compare Means. And we're going to go to Independent Samples t-test. And a dialog box is going to appear. And we are going to move whichever of the two variables that we chose when we created our second research question. So for me, that was depression. That was a variable I chose for my second research question. All right, we're going to move that variable. So I'm highlighted it. We're going to move it over to the test variable box. All right, and then we're going to move the other variable, which in this case is going to be the gender identity. All right, we're going to move that into what is called the grouping variable. All right, but we're not done with this. What we need to do is to define our groups. So we're going to define our groups by pressing define groups. And right now it says group 1 is 1 and group 2 is 2. We're going to leave it like that. And remember, the way we inputted our data, right? Group 1 represents males or men, and group 2 represent females or women. All right. And we are going to press continue. All right. We are going to make sure check estimate effect sizes is checked. And then we are going to press OK. And now what you should see is all of these statistics in order to answer our second research question for our independent samples t-test. All right. And that's how you do this part. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my chapter 4, my PS499 chapter 4 results, the formatted template. All right. And I would put in, my first and last name and change the date. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to input the information that I need to in this template. So I'm going to make a split screen. All right. And I'm going to split screen this too. Let's try and split screen this. Let's see if that works. Not the best, but not the worst. Let's see. Let's see, can we, yeah, we could. Okay, we could drag this over a little bit. All right, so let's go back up to the top. All right, so in this one, it says, let's see, well, let's make it a little bit bigger still. So we can see more stuff. All right, so in this study, there were exactly question mark participants ranging from blank 18 to what years old. All right, so in order to find that, all right, we're going to go to frequencies and statistics. All right. And so in this study, they were exactly, well, how many people? Well, this is where it's going to tell me how many people are in my study, right? Well, there are 10 people in my study, right? 10 folks, n equals 10, right? But for you, it's going to be 100. All right, but I'm gonna, for me, make sure it's accurate. I'm gonna put 10. You're gonna put 100. All right, and The participants are ranging from the years 18 to what? Well, you can do this two ways. Where it says statistics, you have the minimum and the maximum. Well, that's not. So let's go to the correct one. Okay. So for this is the correct one. I'm sorry. Frequency statistics. So there's still 10 people, right? And if I wanted to know what the age range is, right? Well, the minimum was somebody in age in years. The minimum was 18. So the youngest person was 18. And the maximum, the oldest person in my study was 22. All right. And so let's put that in here. So from 18, and we're going to erase this question mark and put 22. All right. And then it says, question mark percentage, and then the actual number of people who were male, and then the same for who were female. All right. So in order to find that, let's. All right. And so in order to find out the number of people and percentages for males and females, we're going to go to gender identity. All right. And so it says for males, we have 6 people who represent males, and we have 4 people who represent females, or men and women. And the percentage of the men is 60%, and the percentage of the women is 40%. So let's put that in here. All right. So the percentage of the men, right, 60%, and the number of women, the actual physical number of men is going to be 6. All right. And for women, right, the percentage of women is going to be 4. Well, I'm sorry, it's going to be 40%. And the number of women, there are 4. All right. And now it goes into all classifications participated in the study. There were, and now we're talking about how many freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors are in this particular study. So in order to do that, we're going to go scroll down to college year. All right. And so for freshmen, there are 4 freshmen. There are 2 sophomores. All right. There are 2 juniors and 2 seniors, and their respective percentages is 40, 20, 20, and 20. All right. So let's put that in here. All right. So the percentage who are freshmen is going to be 40%, and the number of freshmen is 4. And for sophomores, the percentage is 20%. And the actual physical number of sophomores, there were 2. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like I have somewhat of a typo in here. So let's get rid of that. All right, so there were 20% sophomores. All right, and then there were how many juniors? Well, let's look at junior. For the juniors, there were, as far as percentages go, there were 20% juniors, and the physical number of juniors is 2. And then for the seniors, all right, there were, as far as percentages go, there were 20% seniors in the study, and their physical number is 2. All right. Okay. All right. And so the next part of this is there were also different ethnicities that participated in the study. There were, and then now it's breaking down all the different ethnicities. All right. So I just want to make a mention. If in your study, let's say you didn't have freshmen, well, where we talked about freshmen, so you wouldn't put that there were 0 freshmen because we wouldn't talk about something that doesn't exist. We would just erase that line and just start at sophomores and then juniors and then go to seniors. The same with when we talk about the different ethnicities. If there are ethnicities that aren't represented, well, then you just don't put those in this paragraph. You would just erase that part. All right. So in order to get race and ethnicity, I'm going to scroll down. All right. Well, let's see. Where's that at? Race and ethnicity. All right. So race and ethnicity is right here. All right. And so it looks like we had in our study Black African Americans, we had some Native Africans, we had Afro Caribbeans, Afro Latinos, and biracial. All right. So let's put that in here. So there were also different ethnicities that participated in the study. There were, and the first one talks about people identified with being Black or African American. So let's put that in here. So there were 20% of the people in our study who self-identified as Black or African American, and that made up 2 people in our study. All right. And then there were people, those who identified as being African. Well, there were the percentage of those that identified as being Native African was 20%. And the actual physical number is 2. All right. And then it talked about those that are, Afro-Caribbean. And also, here I only have 5, but there are a number of different race and ethnicities. If you had, let's say, white folks or Asian Island Pacific people, you would put that in here. So this is editable. It's supposed to represent who you have in your study. All right. I just put what is most likely for you to have. More than likely, you're going to have mostly Black African Americans, Afro Caribbeans, and Afro Latinos. And possibly more some biracial people and some Native Africans. All right. All right. And so those identified with being Afro Caribbean, well, the percentage of that is going to be 20%. All right. And the physical number is going to be 2 in our sample. And then those who identified with being Afro Latino, all right, the percentage Afro Latino is going to be 20% as well. And we have 2. All right. And then those who identified as being biracial, all right, the percentage is 20%. And the actual physical number is in our sample, it represents 2 people. All right. So now we have that part. So now we're going to move on to answering our research questions. So a Pearson's product moment correlation was run to assess the relationship between variable 1 and variable 2. All right. So what is variable 1 and variable 2? Well, for me, the variable 1 is going to be depression. And variable 2 is going to be anxiety. All right. Then it asks the number of participants were recruited. Well, that number for me is 10, right? Because I answered that question up above. For you, it should be 100 or maybe more than 100, depending on how many people. All right. But at least 100. So I'm going to put in 10 participants were recruited. All right, I'm not going to put Roman numerals. I'm going to write out the number 10. All right, we don't want to start a sentence off with Roman numerals or Arabic numerals. We want to start that off with an actual word. All right, and then it asks, there was a choose one statistically significant or not statistically significant correlation between the variables. Well, to find that out, I'm going to scroll down to the correlation matrix. This thing right here, the correlations. All right. And so I'm going to go right here to find out all of my information, well, the majority of my information. All right. So the actual correlation between depression and anxiety is going to be right here. And that is it's 0.187. The significance, all right, the p-value between depression and anxiety is 0.605. All right, and the sample size is 10. All right, so we're going to choose, was there a statistically significant or not statistically significant correlation between the two variables? Well, when we started this, we said that we were going to flag significant correlations. If we had any significant correlations, there would be asterisk next to this Pearson's correlation. All right, and then there would be on the bottom here an asterisk or two asterisks indicating that we do have significant correlations, meaning that we have that we have significant correlations at the 0.05 level, 0.01 level, or 0.001 level. All right, we don't have that here. All right, so that tells us that we do not have any statistically significant correlation. So I'm going to go, well, we do not. So there was no statistically significant correlation. There was no statistically significant correlation between the two variables. And then we're going to choose here, there was either a strong, moderate, or weak positive or negative correlation between variable 1 and variable 2. Well, let me just change variable 1 and variable 2 again. That's the variable 1 is going to be depression. And for me, and variable 2 is going to be anxiety. All right. So how do we understand if there's a strong, moderate, or weak correlation? Well, here's a correlation. It's 0.187. Let's scroll down here to look at our correlation coefficient box. And it tells us what is a weak, medium, or strong correlation. Well, once again, we have 0.187. Well, that's between 0 to positive 0.3. So that is a weak correlation. So weak correlation. So let's make sure that we have that. So there was a weak, and now are we dealing with a positive or a negative correlation? Well, if it was a negative, there would be a negative right here in front of this Pearson correlation of 0.187. There is not. So that means that we have a positive correlation. So let's change that. So there was a weak positive correlation between depression and anxiety. All right. Then it goes, well, we did to tell the reader, we did a Pearson's correlation. That's the italicized lowercase r. And in between here, all right, we need to put our degrees of freedom. All right, for a Pearson's correlation, the degrees of freedom is going to be the sample size, n, minus 2. So for me, I have 10 people in my study. 10 minus 2 is going to give me 8. So my degrees of freedom are 8. For you, if you had 100 people, well, your degrees of freedom would be the sample size, or n minus 2. All right. Then on the other end here, all right. And so the next part is, so we have that we did a correlation. The degrees of freedom is 8. And now we need to put in our actual Pearson's correlation. Well, our Pearson's correlation was 0.187. Then it asks to put in our p-value. So that's going to be where our significance two-tailed is at. All right, and that for us is 0.605. Now, that can be shown in a number of ways. All right, we could see a number like 0.605, right? Or we could see something like less than 0.01, or less than 0.001, or less than 0.000. All right, if we can see something like those. All right, and so that would we would just put in what we saw. If we saw something like this, all right, like I described in other videos that you can go to, namely the Pearson's correlation video. All right, so in this one, we have a p-value of 0.605. All right. Then the next question asks us, what is our R squared? So what's the Pearson's correlation squared? That's also called either the coefficient of determination. It's also called the percentage of variance explained. All right. And to get that, all right, all we need to do is scroll down to this correlation matrix that we created. I mean, the scatter plot that we created. And look over here. Right here, it tells us what R squared is. So R squared is, for us, is 0.035. All right, so, and if you didn't trust that number for some reason, you could just take the correlation, the 0.187, and square it, and you would get the same number. This one I think is rounded off, but let's put it in here. All right, 0.035. All right. Okay. And so now it says variable 1. Well, let's put in what variable 1 is. For me, that's going to be depression. Explained what percentage of the variability in variable 2, which for me is going to be anxiety. All right. So for this, we're going to take this R squared, the percentage of variance explained, or the coefficient of determination. We're going to move the decimal place 2 places over to the right to answer that particular question. So the percentage for this is going to be 3.5, right? Because we moved the decimal place 2 places over to the right to get a percentage. All right, so depression explained 3.5% of the variability in anxiety. All right, and now it says table 1 provides the correlation matrix. All right, the relationship between the two variables can be seen via scatter plot in graph 1. All right, now on to our second research question. So an independent samples t-test was run to determine if there were significant differences on variable between males and females. Well, the variable that I chose to study for my second research question was depression. So an independent sample t-test was run to determine if there were significant differences on depression between males and females. The blank, males or females, we're going to choose one of those, all right, had higher scores than the other one. Choose one, and then we're going to put the means and the standard deviation. So first we need to assess, who had the higher scores. And by higher scores, we mean who had the higher overall mean. So let's go to our tables and let's see about that. So we are going to scroll down to our T statistics. All right. And where it says group statistics, all right, we are going to have our means. All right. And so in this case, the male group has a mean of 12.6667, and the women mean has a group has a mean of 19.5. All right, and so let's put that information in here. So in this case, the females, all right, had higher scores than the males. So let's make that apparent. So in this case, the females all right, and let's put their mean score. Let's put it to about 2 decimal places. So 19.50. And let's put their standard deviation, which is right here, which in this case is going to be 8.85. Had higher scores than now we know, than the males. All right, so and what were their mean and standard deviation? Well, the mean for males, again, is 12.66. And the standard deviation for males is 5.126, because the next number is a 5. So 5.12 or 5.13. So 5.13. All right, and the results were, we're going to choose either that this was statistically significant or not statistically significant. Well, the way we assess that is, let's look at our independent samples t-test. Let's make that bigger. All right, in order to figure out if we have statistical significance, we can look at this a number of ways. All right, so we can look at if our two-sided p, we're going to evaluate if that is greater than or less than the alpha level that we chose at the beginning of the study, which was in this case 0.05. Well, 0.156 is greater than 0.05. So that means that we did not find statistical significance. All right, and that means we are going to fail to reject the null hypothesis. If you didn't understand that one, all right, you can go to this confidence interval right here. And now in this confidence interval, all right, there's a lower and an upper confidence interval. All right, and if the confidence interval, right, if these two numbers, if they cross 0, if anywhere in between these two numbers is 0, well, that means we did not find statistical significance. So between negative 16.9 and 3, well, the difference between these two, it crosses 0 at some point. So that means we did not find statistical significance. All right, so let's go back here. All right, and so in our case, the results, all right, the results were not statistically significant. All right, and so I just want to make y'all aware, I didn't say this before, but we're only going to deal with equal variances assumed. All right, do not use equal variances not assumed. Only use equal variances assumed. So this top row right here. All right, so So then we have our t value. All right. So we're telling the audience that we did a t-test. All right. Specifically an independent samples t-test. Right here, we're going to put our degrees of freedom. So to find the degrees of freedom, well, it's going to be 8. All right. That's our degrees of freedom. All right. And then we're going to put in what our t-score is. All right. And to find that, we're going to go right here. That's what our t-score is. So our t-score in this one is negative 1.564. All right, and then we're going to put in our p-value. Well, our p-value is this number right here, 0.156. All right, and then we're going to, why that extra question mark is there? All right, so move that. All right, then we are going to put in our Cohen's estimated Cohen's d. All right, and to get our estimated Cohen's d, we're going to scroll down to here, the independent samples effect sizes. All right, this is the row for Cohen's d. We're going to go to what's called the point estimate. And this top one right here is going to be our estimated Cohen's d. So that's negative 1.010. So negative 1.010. All right. And then the 95% confidence interval. All right. We're going to scroll back up to the independent samples test for that one. And we're going to go right here. This is our lower and upper confidence interval. So let's put that in here. So that is negative 16.91 if we're rounding up. All right. And then we have the upper, which is 3.24 if we're rounding up. Okay. All right, so now let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. All right, so now table 2 provides a breakdown of the descriptive statistics. Table 3 provides a breakdown of the independent samples t-test. And then it asks us to list out the table 1, graph 1, table 2, and table 3. All right, before I do that though, I got to get rid of this bold right here because that doesn't belong here. So to get rid of the bold, I'm going to highlight everywhere that has bold. And I'm going to go to home. And I'm going to press bold. Then I'm going to press unbold. And that will get rid of all the bold parts. Okay. All right. So let's scroll down. I'm just going to try to fix some things here to make it look, more appropriate. All righty. All right. So now we got to move over our tables. All right. So it says table 1 provides the correlation matrix. So let's move over the correlation matrix. So let's find the correlation matrix. Well, it's this right here. All right, but before we can do that, we need to make sure the correlation matrix is in APA style. So in order to do that, right, we are going to do some more stuff in SPSS. All right. So we're going to double click the table. All right. And this dialog box is going to appear. We're going to go to edit. All right. And oh no, I'm sorry. Let's clear on this. Start over again. All right. So we're going to double click this box. All right. And then we're going to go over to format. All right. And then under format, we're going to go to table looks. And a new dialog box is going to appear. All right. And we are going to choose APA times Roma 12 underscore 12 points right here. Let's say you didn't see that, right? Because sometimes it's not up there. You're going to go to browse, and then you're going to choose APA underscore times Roma underscore 12 point. All right. You're going to press save look. All right. And then you're going to press OK. Then you're going to exit out of this pivot table correlations dialog box. And what you'll see is that it changed the correlation matrix into an APA formatted correlation matrix. Then you're going to right click here. Then you're going to press copy. And then you're going to go back to your paper, right? And let's just bring this down a little bit because we want the title of the table and the actual table itself to be on the same page. So under table 1, you are going to paste this correlation table. All right. And for graph 1, all right, it says the relationship between the two variables can be seen via scatter plot in graph 1. So for this one, we're going to snatch up our scatter plot. So let's go to our scatter plot, which is this right here. We're going to right click here. We're going to press copy. All right. We're going to reopen our chapter 4 template. And under graph 1, we are going to put our table. So here is our scatter plot. All right. And we're going to move this table 2 down a little bit more because, again, we want our tables, titles, and our actual information for our table to be on the same page. So for this one, it says table 2. So what is table 2 going to be? It says table 2 provides a breakdown of the descriptive statistics. All right. So we're going to provide a breakdown of descriptive statistics. So let's go to our output. And the descriptive statistics of, let's make sure, I think it was descriptive statistics of our t-test, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so it's a breakdown of our descriptive statistics for our t-test. So let's go back to our output. Well, no, that would be here, the t-test for group statistics. But before we can do that, we need to change this into an APA formatted table. We couldn't do that with this scatter plot, but we can do this with the tables. So let's double click this. This dialog box is going to appear. We're going to press on format. We're going to press on table looks. We are going to press on APA times Roma. It represents APA times New Roman 12 points. We're going to press save look. We are going to press OK. And then we're going to exit out of this dialog box. All right, and now we have our group statistics in our APA style. So now we're going to right click and we're going to press copy. We're going to go to our template, and under table 2, we're going to paste. All right, make sure that this looks clean. It looks a little bit big. Well, let's see. So for paste options, the standard error of the mean is a little bit cut off, and merging formatting doesn't work. But if we do it as a picture, it does look appropriate. So we're going to paste it as a picture. So this is based off of, how it looks. Again, this is something that you're presenting to me. So this needs to look clean and presentable. All right, so this is the statistics for this t-test. Then the last thing we need, all right, is table 3. But let's see what table 3 asks for, or is telling us. So table 3 provides a breakdown of the independent samples t-test. All right, so table 3, a breakdown of the independent samples t-test. Let's go back to our output. Well, this is the breakdown of our independent samples t-test right here. So again, we have to make this presentable in APA style. So let's go right click. Oh no, I'm sorry. We're going to double click this independent samples t-test box. All right, we're going to press on format. We're going to press on table looks. We're going to press on APA times Roman 12. We're going to press save look. We're going to press OK. And then we're going to exit this pivot table. All right, and now we have our independent samples t-test in APA style. So let's press, now we're going to copy this into our Word document. So press copy. All right, and let's go to our template. Now, because this is so big, right, these rows encompass a lot of information. It's not going to fit very neatly into our Word document, so we're going to have to resize it. So what I recommend is that you paste this as a picture. All right, paste it as a picture. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make this smaller. We're going to make the picture smaller by coming right here in the corner right here and going inward. Okay, so let's give it some space. Let's make this just a little bit wider so that I could see it when I'm reviewing your information. All right, so now we have the independent samples t-test information right here. All right, and then it says in conclusion, the present study was approved by the Bethune-Cookman IRB. Subsequent to that approval, data collection was completed. In accordance with the design of the study, the data were analyzed via correlational and independent samples t-test. The results for the correlation used to answer research question 1, well, was that significant or not significant? Well, let's go back up here to see. All right. Well, there was no statistically significant correlation. So that one, all right, they were not statistically significant. All right, all right, and the results of the independent sample t-test was used to answer question 2, research question 2, and we're gonna need to answer were these were or were not statistically significant. Well, let's go to our information right here. And independent samples t-test, let's see, the results were not statistically significant. Let's remove that comma right there, doesn't belong there. Okay. Oh, that parentheses, I should say. All right, so let's change that as well. So this too, they were not statistically significant. All right. And in chapter 5, the implications and future recommendations based on the study are discussed. All right. And so I need to get rid of the bold. So I'm going to highlight this whole paragraph, press bold, and then unbold it. And what I'm going to do is, if I had, I don't really have any references, but if I did, I would put references right here. Obviously, this says erase this after creating the paper. So I'm going to erase this after creating this paper. All right. I'm going to save it, and submit this through Canvas. I'm also going to include a saved file of my of both my data and my output. So to save your data, right, you're going to go to File, you're going to go to Save As, you're going to name it, all right, then you're going to press Save. All right, I'm not going to do that here, but you're going to name it, press Save. All right, it's a .sav file, right? So let's say, let me do it here then. PS499 senior thesis data 3 SAV file. Press save. So now I have that saved. You can save it, so make sure you save it because you need to send it to me via Canvas. And then also to save the output, I'm going to go into the output. I'm going to press File. I'm going to go press Save As. All right. So now PS499 senior thesis output 2. All right, and I'm going to press save. All right, and that's how you save those two, the output and the SP and the data file. And you're going to send those two to me along with the template filled out with your information. And that concludes this particular video. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email on Canvas or on the regular email. Have a great day. Goodbye.